This was supposed to be a peaceful retreat, a chance to escape the chaos of city life. Instead, a deep unease crept over him, a feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the cabin itself, its wooden walls soaked in age, whispering secrets with every creak. Or maybe it was the old mirror in the corner, covered in dust and grime, yet somehow reflecting his image with unsettling clarity. He glanced at his reflection. Dark eyes stared back, his face weary from the long drive. But as he turned away, something made him freeze. His reflection hadn't moved. Arjun whipped around, his heart hammering. The mirror showed him standing still, facing forward, though he had already turned. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Slowly, he stepped closer, watching as his reflection finally caught up, half a second too late. He laughed nervously. "Just tired," he muttered to himself. But the unease didn't leave. That delay, it wasn't natural. Determined to shake the feeling, he turned away again. This time he caught it in his peripheral vision. His reflection smiled, but his own lips hadn't moved. The candle flickered violently, nearly going out. Arjun's breath hitched as he stared at the mirror, waiting. The grin widened. His reflection's eyes darkened, pupils dilating unnaturally until the whites nearly disappeared. Arjun stumbled back, knocking over a chair. "What the hell?" His voice was barely a whisper. Then, the reflection took a step forward. Not him, his reflection. Panic gripped him. He spun around to run, but the air behind him was empty. No sound, no movement. He turned back to the mirror, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. His reflection was normal again. His face looked the same, tired, confused. Maybe he had imagined it. The stress, the loneliness of this place, the flickering light. It could have been a trick of the mind. He exhaled, shaking his head. "I need sleep." Blowing out the candle, he climbed into bed. But the moment he closed his eyes, a sharp sound cracked through the silence. Tap. His eyes snapped open. Tap, tap. It was coming from the mirror. He lay frozen, his body refusing to move. Tap, tap, tap. Slowly his head turned toward the dark corner. The mirror stood there, barely visible in the faint moonlight. The sound was coming from inside the glass. And then, movement. A shadow stirred within the mirror, something shifting behind his reflection. It was subtle, but undeniably there. A figure, tall and thin, standing just behind the mirrored version of himself. Arjun's breath quickened. His reflection didn't react. It stood motionless, face blank, eyes staring directly at him. But the thing behind it was getting closer. Summoning every ounce of courage, he reached for his phone. No signal. His fingers trembled as he turned on the flashlight, aiming it at the mirror. For a moment, nothing changed. Then, his reflection blinked, but not in sync with him. And when it reopened its eyes, they weren't his anymore. The pupils were slits, the skin wrong, too smooth, too pale, almost wax-like. And then, it spoke. "You shouldn't have come here." The voice wasn't his. It was deeper, hollow, layered. Arjun's body locked in terror. Then the reflection raised its hand and knocked on the inside of the glass. Tap, tap, tap. Arjun leapt from the bed, heart slamming against his ribs. He grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and hurled it at the mirror. Glass shattered, fragments scattering across the floor. Silence. His breath came in ragged gasps. He waited, listening. The wind outside had stopped. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath. Cautiously, he stepped forward, peering into the broken mirror. Nothing but shards of glass, reflecting his own terrified face. He exhaled, running a shaky hand through his hair. "Just a nightmare," he whispered. "A waking nightmare." He turned away. The floor creaked. Arjun froze. The sound had come from the mirror. Slowly, his eyes drifted back. The shards of glass still lay scattered. But something was wrong. In the largest piece, a single eye stared back at him. Not his. The slitted pupil constricted. Then the whisper came, curling through the air like smoke. "Let me out." Arjun staggered back. The shards trembled. The room darkened. His body felt heavy, as if unseen hands were pulling him down. The whisper turned into laughter, low, guttural, hungry. Then, before he could scream, the room pulled him in. Everything stretched. The floor melted away, the walls twisted, and in the final moment before darkness swallowed him whole, he saw his own reflection standing where he had been, a smile creeping across its face. It blinked. Then it turned and walked out the door.